Yun, oh. That's it. Yun. Let's go, guys. Okay. Ito na. Dami natin pag-usapan. Sarah All ba or Sarah No Show? Sa darating na Sona. Yung pa naman ang pinaka-inaabangan ng lahat. Anong maging interactions ng Sarah with BBM at saka, of course, interaction ng Sarah and the First Lady. Of course, ito yung pinaka-inaabangan ng Samsung. Pinaka-inabangan ng mga Marites, mga Echosera, dyan sa chair, dun sa tabi yata. Yung chair na may books, I think sa tabi. Oh. Yung mga Echosera, yan ang tinitignan nila. Now, interestingly, marami rin nangyari dyan sa Davao. Pag-usapan natin very shortly also yung drama unfolding na Davao. Ito na yung sinasabi natin, itong showdown ng Nograles, House of Nograles versus House of Duterte. May mga haka-haka na baka may isang Nograles will vie for the office of mayor sa Davao, and obviously if that happens, boom, puya ka siya, game over. That's it. It's over. Alright? So, high stakes din yan. Pero bago natin pag-usapan, si Sarah All na ba or Sarah No Show na ba sa Sona? Bago natin pag-usapan yung nangyayari sa Davao, is it gonna be still House of Duterte? Is the House of Nograles gonna have any good chance? Bago lahat yan, guys, pag-usapan natin ito. Ito talagang nagtitrending ito kanina. Ang daming tao nagko-comment dito. Ito, guys, ito yung picture ng First Lady, not with Sara Duterte, pero mga anak ni Ma'am Chris Aquino. So ito kanina may post sila nagkasama na sila. Ito si First Lady at saka ito mga anak ni Chris Aquino. Obviously, of course, on the surface, maybe it's really just surface, but the idea here is that no big deal after all, di ba? Araneta's, Aquinos, di ba? There are all of those connections and family, the ties that bind and all of that. Kuya, kung sa tingin mo bias ka, di umalis ka yan. Block na kita para umalis ka na dito. Bye. Okay, yan. Kung ayaw nyo makinig, yan ang parati ko sinasabi, guys. Kung ayaw nyo makinig, di umalis kayo. Di ba? Tapos kung magtutroll kayo, wag na kayo umiyak-iyak. O pag mas na-troll kayo, di ba? Yun lang yung sinasabi ko. Wala namang pumipilit sa inyo manood eh. Pwede naman kayo hindi manood. Gusto nyo manood ng mga junk food, o yan, si Buljak. Gusto nyo manood ng alam niya, baka mahirap na. Ang dami pa naman ng Malacanang vloggers dyan na naghahanap ng hanas. So yan, panoorin nyo yung mga yan. Okay guys, balikan natin ito. So, nagkaroon ng meeting between First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. The reason why I talk about the ties that bind, because I remember very well Mar Rojas. This was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, if not 2018-19, when he said something like, magkaano naman kami, we're families. Kasi syempre Mar Rojas is also Araneta on the mom's side, and then Araneta din daw, Araneta naman si Liza Araneta. So, mga ganun na argument. So, this idea that at the end of the day, no matter what political color, no matter what, political hue or saan sila sa political spectrum or political history or alignments, iba talaga yung ties that bind na may kinalaman sa pamilya. Alright. So Chris Aquino's sons, Bimbi and Josh, recently paid a visit to the First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. Yung asawa na, of course, ng ating presidente posted this. So obviously she's very proud and happy about this. Good vibes on her social media pages. Yung photos nila after dumating itong mga anak ni Chris Aquino sa opisina niya. Obviously, you can see how the comfort level is there. The First Lady also warmly thanked Bimbi and Josh for dropping by, and for the quote, pasalubong. She also expressed yung kanyang pleasure, as seeing them after all of these years, because obviously, of course, alam niyo naman natin, of course, there's the Marcos thing, there's the Aquino thing. So, the world is healing na ba? Yun bang natin? So, thank you, Bimbi and Josh, for dropping by. It was nice to see you guys after all these years. Diba? Simple lang post niya. Daming meron din isa pang angle dito. Uy, ganda ng laptop Parang gusto ko ng cover na ganun Parang olive green cover. Diba? So, may mga iba-iba dito. Diba? Now, let me say right off the bat na, I'm a nice person. In a sense that, people are free to meet whoever they want. They're free to socialize. There's always humanity. There's always family. There is always sentimentality that transcends politics and divisions and polarization. I have disagreements with my mga relatives tayo na solid north ganon, but it's okay. At the end of the day, we're family, we're relatives. May mga kaibigan tayo dati na bumoto kay Duterte, very disappointed ako, but nevertheless, so actually in person, personally, hindi ako against civility, right? And a certain degree of sociability. But although, of course, ito, definitely hindi lang civil to. This is very chums. Chummy chums. So what are we to make out of this? Right off the bat, you can say, anong pake natin, freedom nila yan. They're just being Filipino, being nice, giving pasalubong. After all, this is the first lady. And in fairness kay Liza Araneta, she has been kind of like a anchor, of sobriety and some would even say astute politics on the part of the president. She has also been an anchor of culture. She's kind of playing a role na meron dati kay Imelda Marcos, yung Esplanade, Pasig Revival Projects. She, a lot of my friends from the, from the high society and all, people na kilala natin. Friends, hindi yung parang friends kami everyday, pero mga kilala, mga acquaintances, okay? They say many good things about her. Marami akong kilala na acquaintances na galit sa mga Marcoses dati, na bumoto kay Lenny, yung ba pink na pink, but now I see them every day in pictures in some event na andun si Liza Araneta. So, in a way, I think it would be unfair to, kind of zero in on yung Chris Aquino or yung mga anak niya, etc. And by the way, I wish her the best in her recovery, and thank God it looks like she's moving in the right direction. And all due respect to the Aquino families and all. But of course, we also knew always that iba si Chris Aquino dun sa mga ibang kapatid niya, diba? I think if we saw Balsi or other sisters, mga Aquinos siguro having this kinds of meeting, or I don't know, someone like Bam Aquino having this kind of meeting, maybe the interpretation would be different. But I think the reason why marami nag-react sa picture na yan is because it's happening in a context whereby ang conversation ngayon is magkakaroon na ba ng bagong unit team? Diba? New unit team, right? Kung saan ang mga out naman ngayon ay hindi yung mga Dilawan or Pinks. Ang out ngayon is mga Dutertes. In fact, the Dutertes took themselves out in a way, but especially when Sara Duterte resigned from the cabinet. Effectively, they're untethered. No, wala na. Yung mga threads of interdependence and all are gone. And Sara Duterte made it also very clear nung isang buwan na unity team after all was just a tactical alliance. So there's not even a pretension to unity team as we know it having any form of substance or reality at this point in time. Ang tao lang nang nagpapanggap, although I'm sure even he knows that no one believes him, na there is still some sort of unity team is BBM. But that's just BBM way of trying to be quote-unquote nice, na to say na hindi ako yung nagpasimula ng gulo na yan, hindi ako yung dahilan na watak-watak ng unity team, basta ako mabait, basta ako ayoko ng gulo, basta ako focus ako dito sa trabaho ko. So it's his way, it's his own way of projecting statesmanship. So yun yung kumbaga etbang ni ni BBM, 'di ba? Yun yung mga hanash niya. But we also know, and yan ang pinag-usapan natin sa mga vlogs natin over the past few days, is that you have openly conversations about whether dapat magsama na ang mga dilaw at saka mga pula in the and when I say pula, I don't mean the Dutertes. Hindi ko na alam ang kulay ng pula ng mga Dutertes kasi pula din ng mga Marcoses eh. Green pala, no? Sarah Green. Okay. Sabihin natin green na lang sila Sarah. Pag sinama mo ang pula at yellow, parang orange bang lalabas? Parang medyo Binay vibes. But anyway, so ang dahilan dyan is because the conversation is gaining so much momentum that you have both Leni Robredo and Riza Ontiveros coming out very strongly and saying no, hindi magkakaroon ng, well, at the very least, hindi magkakaroon ng official new grand coalition or new unity. At pinag-usapan natin sa column natin, sa mga articles natin, bakit this is a mutually destructive arrangement if ever magkakaroon ng official unity. Because an official unity on the part of Marcos, I'm not sure what's the added value that the opposition can bring to the slate. At almost ubus na, naka 11 na out of 12 dun sa Senate slate. At the slate looks quite credible to me, probably with the adjustment of 2 or 3 people. So mukhang wala na rin espasyo dun sa 12 slate. Now, there's always the option of guest candidate o mga ganon. But the question is, in terms of added value, in terms of organization, resources, votes, I'm not sure it's very clear na kung magsama ang pink at saka pula, yung mga pink voters ay boboto dun sa mga pula. I don't think it's as clear as that, right? But then again, we can have a long conversation because dun sa 12 final slate ni Marcos, in fact, based on the 11 final slate na I think it's more than just Marites na kita natin. There could be 2 or 3 persons there na baka bukas ang mga quote-unquote pink or dilaw voters. Although, it also remains to be seen whether maghihil din yung divisions between Lacson and mga pinks. Kasi interestingly, si Lacson, Senator Lacson, always says very good things about Aquino. And there are people who are, let's say, in the Dilaw camp na who may be okay with Lacson for all the good things that he brings. But I think a lot of people also don't forget yung ginawa niya yung catastrophic press conference with Isko Moreno and all, and attacking Lenny and all of that. That was disaster. And I think a lot of people were very alienated by that. Pero tingnan, bati nga ako na nag-aasaran kami dati na GMRC and gano'n. I stop also, and in fairness, he makes sensible tweets and comments. Hindi na siya blockson. At in fairness naman, hindi naman niya ako binlock all those months na kami. Alam niyo naman guys, medyo sutil din naman ako eh. Pero sige, move on na tayo. But I don't know. I think that's the conversation we can have later this week, hopefully with other friends. Obviously, pag Marites, si Ronald na lang kausapin natin siya. But I do see the point na hindi very clear sa akin yung added value ng mga dilaw, quote unquote, or even mga pink sa administration. Kasi I think ang lakas masyado yung never Marcos sensibility eh. And for good reason. Because ano ulit ang ginawa ni Marcos to come clean on the historical atrocities of the Marcos dictatorship? Wala man lang recognition nga eh. Wala man lang anything, di ba? So, on the other hand, feeling ko, case of death din yan sa opposition if they openly side with the administration. Wala na silang credibility at all. And good luck coming back in 2028 because I think all of us know 2025 will be extremely, extremely difficult. Will it be 2019 na Ocho Derecho situation? You're hoping not, diba? Kasi gusto mo naman may diversity din sa Senate at magaling naman si Chel Jokno. You want someone like him, yung caliber of Chel Jokno. You want, probably you want another Aquino also there to carry the banner, no? Just to give it a diversity para hindi lang mga purong DDS loyalist lang nandyan or mga fashionista, diba? Si Mr. Fashion. Hindi lang yung mga ganun, or yung mga alam na this. Okay. And to also a little bit balance out the clown show. Okay. So I think for both sides, it doesn't make sense, really, for them to be part of the same slate. The risks outweigh the benefits. In fact, I think the costs are much clearer than the benefits, in my opinion. Right? And sa sobrang higpit itong election na ito, sa tingin ko, even if some in the opposition, genuine opposition, were to benefit from or to ride on the resources and the momentum of the administration, it might still not be enough. So you'll get the worst of both worlds. Di ka nga nanalo, na wala ka pa ng kredibilidad, wala ka ng redemption later on, or wala kang momentum later on if you want to run again, especially if you want to base it dun sa traditional progressive middle class pink vote, right? Now, having said that though, let's be honest, I think the possibility of a modus vivendi is not impossible. The possibilities, I mean, some would even say it's probable, right? But at the very least, it's plausible na magkakaroon ng some sort of understanding na ang number one kalaban dito is actually mga Dutertes, right? So yun ang tinitignan natin. So what I'm saying here is nothing is gonna be read innocently. And when the First Lady posts something like this, we can speculate about what's really her intentions, but I think it's very easy to understand why people would make comments that they're making online, diba? And again, this brings us back to the axiomatic, the dictum, the wise words of a certain ex-president called Erap Estrada, who said, weather lang yan. So this is for some people, this is a perfect embodiment of that. Even though, as I said, malaki ang posibilidad na what we're seeing here is nothing but, just socializing and the First Lady being very happy about it. Jumaven, obviously fake account mo. Are you trying to troll me or not? If you're gonna troll me, sige lang, mag-comment ka pa, ma-block ka na in few seconds. Simple lang naman ang arrangements natin dito. You behave yourself, otherwise you're gonna get blocked. Okay? Oo. Gaya natin si Blockson. Behave naman kasi kayo. Either you come here and have a proper conversation or get out of here. Wala namang pumipilit sa inyo. Tapos gusto niyo mag-troll. Wala, laos na kayo. Laos na kayo. May farm pa ba kayo? Okay, now, ito na. Now let's go to the exciting part of the conversation. Guys, aminin natin guys. Itong mga Dutertes ay isa sa pinakamalaking dahilan na ang politika natin ay napaka-high stakes. Some would say catastrophically high stakes, meaning the damage they have caused. Some would say, in a more neutral sense, well, they make it interesting, which, I find it like, yeah, except, ang daming namatay, AJK, whatever. And then some others would say, no, they're actually the quote-unquote revolutionary force. They are, at the very least, the disruptive force of Philippine politics. That Philippine politics will never be the same. After Digong's 2016 elections and the way he run roughshod with Philippines and our institutions and the damages he caused to our institutions, the mockery he made of our institutions, the way na kinakausap niya yung mga ibang tao, the way na pinagtatawanan niya yung mga batas natin, the way na wala siyang respeto sa lahat ng mga norms of politics, and some would say norms of basic decorum and behavior, not only for a president but for any ordinary person, for any, I don't think the Philippines will ever be the same again. So there's Philippine politics before Duterte, and then there's Philippine politics after Duterte. And at some point, probably a little bit exaggeration, but Leloy, our good friend, said that Philippine studies is now effectively Duterte studies. Yun ang sinabi na during conference, during Duterte's time. Actually, I feel it until today. Because napansin ko, when I talk about Marcos alone, parang nababoard yung mga ibang tao. Or parang, like, old story na yan, diba? But once I bring Duterte into the conversation, wherever whether I'm talking in a university or whether I'm talking in a think tank or even in media, suddenly biglang may interest ng mga tao, right? And that's not necessary. I mean, let's just be honest. Dutertes are notorious, right? And disruptive at the same time, right? So there's Philippine political life before Duterte and then after Duterte. In fact, guys, ang dahilan na naging political analyst tayo, I hate that term, but as someone who writes and comments on Philippine politics, kasi before that purong foreign affairs lang ako West Philippine Sea, mga ganun yung mga issues natin. But because of Duterte, I realized no, I have to cover this, I have to write about this. I wrote a book, I want to write something more about him. Is because we have to make a sense out of this. We really have to make a sense out of this. This is crazy, right? This is crazy. And then of course another one of our friends, si Patricia Evangelista naman, wrote perhaps her own magnum opus, chronicling itong disastrous, catastrophic human rights record of Duterte, and how I wish she incorporated more of political analysis and all, aside from her excellent journalism, para makita ng tao yung big picture and also the deep dark roots that the Dutertismo ideology and term in office has left behind as a legacy. But yun nga Dutertes are still here. And there's still a factor. And honestly, to a certain degree, when I analyze yung mga kakulangan ni Marcos Jr. pagdating sa ekonomiya, inflation management, I think it's an important issue, but there are even more important issues. For instance, kamustang investments, kamustang utility costs, kamustang manufacturing, kamustang foreign direct investments, kamusta yung mga developments sa infrastructure, kamusta sa mga restrictions on foreign investments. Parang dami pang hindi nagawa ni BBM so far. And it's hard not to dismiss the possibility that the whole showdown with the Dutertes has been a huge distraction and a huge burden on the shoulders of BBM. Although again, as I said, parang I don't want that to be an excuse, because Marcos could still do way better, guys, pagdating sa ekonomiya, pagdating sa domestic political reforms, pagdating sa fighting corruption. So I don't want the Dutertes to be his excuse, but it's also hard for me to dismiss the fact that nakaka-distract talaga ang mga Dutertes. And in this case, nakaka-distract because threat na sila. They're an open threat to the current president, right? Openly tinithreaten ni ex-President Duterte ang current president by, inciting rebellion and insulting him and all of the Duterte vloggers, coming up with all of those salacious things about BBM, etc. Ang tingko lang naman sa kanila, wait lang, di ba? Di ba kasama kayo ni BBM all those years? Di ba kasama kayo sa Uniteam? Tapos ngayon nagmamalinis kayo pa yung nag-ano kay BBM. Di ba? I mean, it's just rich for these people who made BBM presidency possible. For them to come out now and nagmamalinis at sila yung parang nagte-take up ng cudgels for, anti-corruption kuno or mga, good governance kuno or statesmanship and, competent leadership kuno. Yung mga ganyan, di ba? But going back to this, mga kamets, the reality is Duterte's are a factor. And this upcoming SONA is extremely, extremely important because, of course, the conspiracy theory was that if matanggal si BBM before this SONA, right, if BBM were to be removed before this SONA, the vice president could run again in 2028. So effectively have an Arroyo Senar. So some of the more paranoid minds were saying na there's an interest to make sure na BBM doesn't last until the upcoming SONA or whatever. Now, I don't want to get into that kind of a dark conspiracy theories and all, and I think that, it's a little bit of a quantum leap of imagination. But I think it's still important for us to see if Sara is going to be a no-show sa upcoming SONA. Because every year, isa sa mga pinaka-highlights ng SONA is obviously yung mga costumes nila Amy Marcos and Sara Duterte. Again, for me, I support any effort to highlight our indigenous peoples, to highlight our cultural diversity, to highlight our beautiful traditions. I come from Baguio. I love Cordillera culture, etc. But at the same time, I want to make sure, hopefully, if politicians are wearing yung mga ganon, make sure hindi lalabas na cultural appropriation and you have to embody it. In fairness naman kay Sara Duterte, I think her constant usage of the term shukran, which is Arabic for thank you, is perhaps her way of, paying homage to our Muslim brothers and sisters. I appreciate that. But nevertheless, I also understand if some people are raising concerns about cultural appropriation and all. Kasi kung ikaw ay hindi galing sa isang kultura, obviously, and then susuotin mo yung mga traditional costume nila, ang tanong dyan is, what made you earn it? What made you earn it? Have you made special contribution to that community? Have you been a pillar of that community? Were you adopted as a datu or adopted as a elder leader or were adopted as a son of daughter or of that tribe or community? So, hindi pwede yung susuotin mo lang yung damit ng ibang tao unless you have established linkages, service, if not even more, other kinds of ties. Otherwise, it's a form of cultural appropriation, right? But anyway, one of the things, nevertheless, that many people were looking forward is anong susuotin ni Sara sa darating na election, darating na SONA, right? But now that she's out of the cabinet, and now that it's more or less clear to everyone that wala na ang dapat nagsabay na lang sila nung ganyan siya. But ngayon na klarong-klaro na wala ng Uniteam. Magpapakita ba si Sara? And kung magpapakita si Sara, ano yung maging terms of engagement niya with BBM? What will be the body language? What will be the interaction? Right? Is she gonna say anything? Is she gonna express discontent? Is she gonna raise her eyebrows if Marcos is gonna say something na hindi tugma sa gusto ng mga Dutertes? Lahat ng mga bagay na yan. But interestingly, now there's another possibility na hindi magpakita at all si Sara Duterte sa SONA, which would be quite interesting because remember, if I'm not mistaken, up until a certain time, si Lenny also regular siya sa diba, sa SONA. Although I remember there was one time na she joined SONA na via, parang naka-laptop na siya. So, if Sara were not to attend this SONA, it more or less would replicate yung time na si Lenny parang hindi na welcome or hindi na siya kasama or definitely hindi siya front row na doon sa SONA. Because let's be honest, the SONA is essentially kind of frozen picture of the power hierarchy in the Philippines, right? Doon mo na makikita yung who's and who. Of course, hindi kasama yung mga katulad natin na simpleng tao na pero baka mas may K, but hindi na yun ang issue. Ang issue dyan is yung mga naimbita dyan and their order of sitting, their kung saan sila sa, it reflects where they are in the pecking order. Essentially, it's a picture of Philippine political pecking order. Yun po yung pecking, hindi yung Peking, Beijing, China, pecking order sa Pilipinas. So her not attending kinda is also a symbol of the Dutertes no longer being part of the essentially ruling coalition, ruling regime, no? So actually, based on the latest report we're seeing right now, the House of Representatives is still awaiting yung confirmation from the Office of the Vice President on whether mag-attend siya sa upcoming SONA or not. At sobrang malapit na, barely 2 weeks from now, there will be SONA. Actually, less than 2 weeks, 22nd siya. So only 13, 14 days from now, almost 2 weeks, magkakaroon ng SONA. So you would imagine by now, klarong-klaro na sinong pupunta sa SONA or hindi. In a press briefing, House Secretary General Reginald Velasco said na wala pa silang, they have no word from the Office of the Vice President, although nag-send out ng letter nung isang araw, although he noted that the deadlines are flexible for high-ranking officials kasi sobrang high-ranking siya, pwede siya magbiglang mag-yes ng final day. But I think us not knowing whether she attends or not, it's already quite telling in itself. It's a telltale of ano nang kalagayan ng unit team or wala. Anong kalagayan actually politika natin kasi wala naman talagang unit team. So ayon kay Velasco, we're still waiting for the confirmation for the Vice President, but we heard word that the Office of the Vice President will confirm supposedly today whether the Vice President attending or not. So we'll just make an announcement on this as soon as we get confirmation. We have much leeway doon sa mga VIPs. They can confirm at the last minute or they can cancel at the last minute. That's the privilege of VIP guests. We cannot impose any deadline to VIPs, but for some other guests, we have a strict deadline. I thought everyone's VIP going there. Our initial deadline was June 25. So we're 2 weeks removed from the deadline for sino mang attend or hindi. And yet wala pa rin confirmation from them. But of course, sabi niya, we're very flexible with the VIPs and high-ranking officials. So, let's see. When asked who among the past high-ranking officials ay na-confirm, Velasco said 3 former vice president will not attend. I thought mag-attend sila. So, hindi mag-attend si Len Robredo, Jeja Marbina, at Noli De Castro. Okay, I thought mag-attend sila. That would be quite something. Like Lenny there and then Sara not there. So, Vice President Duterte's father, Duterte obviously has not confirmed his attendance or non-attendance. Isa pa yung nagkakaren. Velasco added that former President Joseph Estrada, Mr. Weather lang, has also not confirmed his attendance, while former President Arroyo can stay in the legislature's area as she's current representative of Pampanga's 2nd District. So sabi niya, we're inviting all of these former president, former vice presidents, former Senate presidents, and former speakers. O kasama na si Mig Zubiri. And so far, we have not received confirmation from the former President Dugyong. So mukhang yung iba na-confirm niya. We're just waiting for the few offices, vice presidents of the Constitutional Commissions, COMELEC, and waiting if all the commissioners will be attending. But so far, we have confirmation from the chairman of COA. Yun yung institution na parating sabi na malinis talaga yung office ni Lenny, but we're not sure whether all the commissions will be attending. So I think this is one of the things we have to watch. We already saw Digong playing Karen with the whole SONA thing. Remember yung nag-pass down ang power si Digong to Marcos that day na nagkaroon ng transition in power, hindi na nag-attend si Digong at sabi niya busy siya, umuwi na lang siya sa Davao, diba? But at least Sara was there. But now if none of the Dutertes are there, or at least Sara and the father are not there, that kind of tells you about the state of play, or at least that kind of tells you na wala nang pretension even to what is the new political reality in the country. So over 2,000 ang ininbita para mag-attend dito. So the plenary can just accommodate around 1,500. So baka maubusan kayo dyan, yung iba dyan. So we will put an additional 502 seats, so there are 1,814 total seats sa plenary, diba? Kasi alam naman natin, di ba? Yung mga iba dyan, gagamitin naman nilang SONA para magrampa-rampa sila. Who are you wearing? Fashionista, whatever. But, for me, even more dramatic than the non-attendance of Dutertes in this upcoming SONA, which I'm sure will be one of the big stories of the SONA this year, especially as Marcos will likely touch, but in a very BBM way on yung mga hidwaan nila on internal divisions, and probably also some of his dismay with some of the things that happen. Although BBM being BBM, he'll try to probably be nice and all of that. But you never know. He might say something. Especially if Sara is a no-show. Kung dead man si Sara at snub si Sara, you might see maybe BBM saying something. To the effect that, I'm extending an olive branch para sa bayan. Hanash, hanash. Ekbang, ekbang. And then, sasabihin niya, nevertheless, ito, ganyan, ganyan. So, he's gonna split the difference that way. Yun yung sense ko when it comes to his final speech. Now, for me, the bigger drama though is what's gonna happen in Davao itself. It's not what's gonna happen in Manila. It's not what's gonna happen sa Sona. It's what's happening in Davao right now as we speak. Because if you're a Duterte, perhaps your worry is not necessarily whether you're attended. Pulong will be there, di ba? Kasi member naman siya ng legislature. But generally, if you're a Duterte right now, probably you're looking, behind your back. You're checking out what's going on in your own bailiwick. Because, base sa nakita natin, medyo umiinit ng labanan ngayon sa Davao. So there's this fantastic article by Rappler, Old Davao Rivalry Resurfaces as Duterte and Nograles' kids face off over ito yung DSWD funds na allocated dapat sa Davao. There's some issue about that. Now, just before going there, let me quickly give you a background dito sa whole... Kasi, alam ko, pag hindi ka familiar sa Davao or familiar sa Philippine politics for that matter, you'll just assume that, Davao is Duterte, right? In the same way na if hindi ka dalipasa sa LGU politics, local politics, iisipin mo mga Marcoses lang sa Ilocos Norte. You'll forget that they're the Fariñases, for instance, right? So actually, medyo similar in dynamic nito eh. Now there's a more dominant, obviously the Marcoses, but the Fariñases were always a factor in Ilocos politics, right? And the Ilocos are obviously mga Singsons yan. So Davao also actually, there's a kind of a parallel to that, the kind of a Marcos Fariñas one. This is the Nograles Duterte one, right? So, ang competition sa pagitan ng mga Nograleses and Dutertes could be traced all the way back to the 1990s, no? And that rift could get more intense kung totoo itong rumors, or baka more than rumors, na may Nograles na tatakbo na for mayor of Davao, right? So now let's see. So there's all this conversation na tatlong Duterte ang tatakbo sa Senate. Sabi ko, okay, good. So sino mag-mayor? Or who will make sure that the office of mayor will not be lost to the other side, right? So going back to these guys, actually, yung rivalry began when Prospero made an unsuccessful bid for Davao's mayoral post against the future president. This is Nograles, no? Prospero Nograles. A challenge he repeated also in 1998 against Duterte's mayoral bet and vice mayor Benjamin de Guzman. So, 1990s, early 1990s pa lang, may effort na to make sure na hindi lang mga Dutertes in charge sa Davao. After serving as the leader of the House of Representatives, si Prospero Nograles, for 2 years during the Arroyo administration, I remember these years because I was also working in the Congress back in the day, si Prospero ran again for mayor in 2010. And this time, of course, he's coming back as a Speaker of the House. So meron siyang, I remember very well when Prosper Nograles, he was quite a dominant, authoritative Speaker of the House. You may have disagreements with how he handled things, but from what I understand, he was a pretty astute politician. He could navigate yung political fault lines. He could keep different factions happy. He was quite articulate. I think he was very, very switched on, 100%. He knew his portfolio. He knew his challenges. And so, if I were Duterte, medyo mag-worry ako if you're up against this person, no? Obviously, he was not successful, and in 2010, actually, he ran not against Digong anymore, but he ran against Sara Duterte. So, natalo siya ng tatay, natalo siya ng anak. Nevertheless, as you know, the Nograles is at least a certain part of Davao. They have had more or less consistent representations from. Some of the Nograleses later on would actually try to build the kind of their own unit team from Davao. In fact, one of them will be a executive sorry, cabinet secretary, who we interviewed, of course. So actually, nanalo si Digong bilang presidente, nagkaroon ng reconciliation. At yung late speaker's son, si Carlo, ayan, si Carlo, became cabinet secretary during Digong's administration. And we actually interviewed him. Pretty smart guy, very techy, very geeky guy. And he has continued serving as chairperson of the Civil Service Commission under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. After the 2022 elections, though, medyo umiinit na naman itong frictions na ito. And we see as the frictions between House of Marcos and House of Duterte increases, it also is paralleled on the other side. So may reverberations yung awayan at the national level dun sa long-running competition, dynastic competition dun sa baba, no? And this is where actually many people began paying very close attention to anong mga next moves ng mga to. Is Pulong gonna run for mayor of Davao? And importantly, is Migs Nograles also gonna run? So, Migs, bakit Migs? Parang si Migs. Margarita pala to. I'm talking about Margarita, no? So, kasi recently medyo nagkaroon ng hidwaan at World War yung dalawa, si Pulong, Duterte, Davao First District, at saka si Margarita Migs Nograles. Although si Nograles represents a party list para sa ng Bayang Atleta, PBA. I think you guys are familiar with this party list. Medyo nagkaroon ng hidwaan kasi Duterte announced that his office medical assistance program in Davao City ay nasuspend because yung pondon ay hindi dumarating, no, from Department of Social Welfare and Development, or allegedly medyo kulang na sa funding kaya hindi tuloy-tuloy. Yan. And outside Duterte's office in Davao, actually, my notice was posted informing the public about the suspension of medical assistance for private hospitals, allegedly nga dahil sa kakulangan ng budget, no. So remember, this is something that the Dutertes have been saying for quite some time, na parang kinakapos sila, no, na their access to funds is no longer there. Obviously, in confidential fund, naalis na rin yan. But this is the complaint they're making, and this is one of the reasons that Dutertes are much more open and vocal about their criticism of the current administration, because of course, sinong Speaker of the House? Anong relationship ng Speaker of the House with Marcos Jr., right? On her Facebook page though, nag-respond ito si Nograles, si Migs Nograles. Sabi niya, she cautioned against misinformation and black propaganda, saying that yung DSWD naman continues to fund yung mga medical assistance programs dyan sa Davao, and that the DSWD had no funds, the PBA wouldn't be able to provide continued support to that. So you can check her Facebook page when she posted something very long dito. Actually, Tagalog pala siya, no? You can check it yourself. So I'll post a screenshot lang for you guys to see. And then, of course, nag-respond si Pulong naman dito sa sinasabi ni Migs Nograles. Pero bakit Migs, no? Parang Migs is usually Miguel, di ba? Yun yung... Anyway. Margarita yata to, di ba? Ang response ni Pulong is, there's no black propaganda in that. And directly nag-respond siya kay Madam Congresswoman, you all know the current situation. This is not fake news. You can verify in the DSW records themselves. It's clear now that there has been an exaggeration. It's clear now that money meant for the people is being used for politics. This is detrimental to our fellows. So there's, ayan na, diba? Like openly may mga accusations na may mga naumulitika, na apektuhan yung mga pondo for mga social programs, etc. So many people see this as essentially the beginning of a showdown next year, no? So the big question right now would be, will the Marcos administration essentially, or the administration ticket, go all in and try to support the Nograles in the upcoming race? And to what degree? Again, I don't have on-the-ground information. Probably I'll try to ask my Davao friends, gaano ka-solid ang mga Dutertes pa rin sa Davao? Can they still hold on to the office of the mayor? Obviously, just to be clear, Migs Nograles has denied that she has plans to run for mayor in Davao. And obviously, I mean, anyone in her position would also say that. I'm not saying she's not saying the truth. I'm just saying you have every reason not to telegraph your plans, especially where you're going up against Dutertes, who are now really not in a good mood, right? Who are jittery, who are besieged, who are jumpy, if I can put it that way. But the expectation is, baka yun ang maging administration ticket sa Davao mismo. So that will be really next level challenge to the power of Duterte's, because even if may vice president pa rin sila, even if sabi natin isa or dalawa sa kanila makasenado pa, if they lose Davao, wala na silang political foundation. And it will be a very, very tricky situation. But then again, I don't know what's the risk appetite of Ms. Nograles, Congressman Nograles. I also don't know the risk appetite of BBM or Speaker of the House if they want to go all in. But that is one option they have, that they don't need to only go or just go after Duterte's at the national level, dun sa issue ng confidential funds, dun sa issue ng gentleman's agreement, and who knows if the ICC issue comes in. But they also have an option of going for the jugular. Now, that raises another scenario. If Nograles takes over Davao, right, the mayor office, and then there's an ICC warrant of arrest, you can imagine mas implementable yung ICC warrant of arrest if Duterte's are no longer in charge doon sa mga key institutions in Davao. So you can imagine this is a battle for survival also for one side. For one side it's an aggrandizement political move. For another side, it's also a battle of survival. So you could see, siguro the best case scenario for the kalabans of Duterte is make sure manalo mga Nograles, mag-take over sila ng City Hall, and then ICC comes in, and then they're gonna serve that. And then baka mauna pa si Kibuloy or something like that. You can imagine the stakes are really, really high here, right? And things are really getting jumpy and jittery. And let's be honest, very exciting. On that note, thank you very much. Maraming salamat mga kameta. I hope you appreciate and itong mga discussions natin. I believe it's not just speculative. I don't think maritas lang ginagawa natin. I think these are serious scenarios we're looking at. And remember, in politics, it's not only what you do and what you're capable of doing. It's also about your calculation. It's also about the scenarios you're looking at. It's also about risk appetite. So what we're doing dito sa mga meta natin is pinapakita ko sa inyo ano yung mga potential strategic calculation ng each side and what are the pros and cons of each of these moves, no? As of course, I don't pretend to have on-the-ground information on every corner of the country, but obviously Davao politics could become very, very interesting and no longer monolithic. On that note, thank you very much sa lahat ng mga sumusuporta sa atin, nag-follow sa atin. Please continue to support us and follow us. Thanks for your stars and supports and stickers. Thanks for your ratings. Pataas tayo ng pataas sa Spotify natin. I notice as we get more ratings on Spotify natin, Richard Hidaran, Deep Dive with Richard Hidaran, it's also, our episodes are getting also more viewers. No, that's how the algorithm works. The more you follow, the more you rate, the more people listen to you. So please continue to do that. Please ask other people to do it. I'm sure a lot of you have already rated us. We have close to 600 ratings already on Spotify. Our hope is to get around 1,000 ratings. Also on Apple Podcasts, just a rating would appreciate para lang ma-reflect ito. But most importantly for now, ito sa YouTube natin, we want to get the 100,000 threshold para lang ma-check na natin yung account natin para alam ng tao legit yan at hindi yan fake. On that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon.